Paul Valley had an excellent plan. Before their return to the Batcave, they drove to his apartment and collected his Azrael suit and brought it back to the Batcave. While Jean-Paul began converting the suit, Tim and Selena checked on Bruce, who was lying down in his room sleeping. Selena, how is he tonight, Alfred? She asked Alfred, doing well all things considered. He sleeps mostly, which I'm thankful for. Tim, I better get home. I'll see you guys later, Alfred. Good night, Master Tim. Selena, good night. Selena entered the room and sat by Bruce. She played with his hair a bit. Alfred, forgive me for saying so, but he seems to miss your presence when he sleeps. I noticed his hand searching for someone from time to time. Selena, I miss him too, but until his back heals I don't want to take a chance of hurting him while he sleeps. Alfred nodded. I completely understand. Selena, I'll just tell him about Jean-Paul's plan later. Alfred, is it wise to face Bane? After what he did to Master Bruce, Selena, he caught us all off guard, Alfred. If Bruce had listened to us sooner, he would have stood a chance. We have a plan and it does have a chance of working. Either way we can't do nothing. Tonight proved he would just come looking for us. He isn't going to wait for Bruce to get better. There's no other way. Alfred, I suppose you're right. Jean-Paul worked for hours on the new suit, converting fingers into claws, repainting the special metal and material from red to blue. Finally there was the helmet. He tore out the gadgets of the Azrael helmet and reforged the helmet into one that was the bat. He reassembled the helmet and added a shuriken launcher in one gauntlet, while keeping the flamethrower in the other. Soon it was complete. Jean-Paul put it on, then took it out for a test. He moved with the power and speed of Azrael, but instilled the fear of the Batman. He was ready for Bane tomorrow. Bruce looked over the plans over and over that Jean-Paul had made. Bruce wasn't sure about the plan at first, but from what he knew about Bane, he was starting to get more comfortable with the plan. Bruce, tonight, when you're out there, do not let him touch you. Any of you, Jean-Paul, if he does grab you, remember to go for pressure points. It could cause him to let go. Separate him from the venom. This new stuff makes him stronger, but it also numbs physical pain. I wish it was me. None of you should have to do this. Selena sat next to him in the bed. We can do this and nothing is going to happen to us. If we don't, he'll only come back here. She kissed Bruce deeply, then they were on their way. Bane was waiting on the top of the GCPD. He wanted everyone to see this. No one would doubt him after tonight. He flipped on the bat signal and waited. The rain began to fall. The crowd gathered below and the GCPD worked to keep everyone back. Soon the trio arrived. They instructed Gordon to keep everyone off the roof for their safety. AC Batman, Bane. Bane turned to observe his challengers, especially the newly armored Batman. Bane. So this is the edge you believe to have over me? A fancy new suit. I'm insulted. As Batman, it has some tricks and surprises for you. Bane, very well, let's show Gotham once and for all 2 rules. Bane activated the device on his arm and soon venom pumped into his body. As Batman charged head-on at Bane, the 2 clashed in the middle, hands locked and tried to overpower the other. To Bane's surprise, it was difficult to overpower this Batman. Maybe he was premature in mocking his suit after all. They pushed away from each other and traded blows. On the 6th swing, as Batman opened his fist to to allow his claws to cut a hose to Bane's device. The venom poured out Bane. No. He watched as all the venom drained out and was washed away with the rain. He glared at Batman. This changes nothing. I don't need the venom to defeat you. Bane tackled Batman and began pounding his fists down on him, but it had no effect on Batman's armor. Catwoman swooped in and slashed at Bane's flesh with her claws. Bane clutched his arm, realizing the venom was already failing, for he could feel the sting of Catwoman's claws. Robin swung his bow staff across Bane's face. Lashed out to grab them but couldn't touch them then as Batman was upon him. His metal hands punched and clawed at Bane. His mask was beginning to tear as Batman backed away, only for Catwoman to jump in and with her claws again. Catwoman, and this is for what you did to him. She kicked Bane in the groin, making him double over. Robin took her place, beating Bane with his staff, while keeping his distance. Then Batman was there and kicked Bane's chest so hard the villain fell over the side and landed on a car below. This didn't stop him. He climbed off of the car and swung his arms at the metal Dark Knight. Bane, come. Face me and I'll break you, as Batman jumped down with the cape, slowing his descent. He kicked Bane in the face and soon we are trading punches. Bane didn't look so good. He was covered in cuts and scratches and even a few bruises. He didn't wish to give up, however. He refused to be beaten by this Batman imposter. Catwoman whistled, telling Batman to step back in time to avoid being hit by a truck. Catwoman stepped out of the truck in time for Bane to toss it off of him. He was heaving and seething with anger as Batman pounced on Bane and let his fists pound on his face over and over until Bane began to stop moving. He grabbed Bane by his shirt and brought him to his face. Bane, who do you think you are? As Batman, I'm Batman. He let Bane drop to his feet. He was beaten. There was no need to kill him. Gordon came up to the heroes with bewilderment on his face. Gordon, for a second I was starting to think it wasn't you in there. Good to have you back, friend. As Batman nodded, the trio left Bane in the pouring rain, beaten and soon on his way to Blackgate, separated from his precious venom. Tonight was good. Tonight was a success. Bane was beaten and Bruce could rest peacefully knowing Bane wasn't going to come after them and be unable to protect them. Things were finally looking up for the first time in weeks. Jean Paul considered retiring the new suit, now that Bane was beaten, but it felt a part of him. This suit felt more like him than Bruce's old suit. So why not continue to wear it while Bruce was on the mend? Soon a month and a half passed by and Bruce continued to heal. He was able to walk, but he still had to keep his back straight for at least another month and a half. Tonight, as Batman was on his own, Tim had exams to study for. Selina had the romantic night in with Bruce planned. So Jean Paul patrolled the night alone. He heard a woman's scream and ran to investigate the trouble. He saw a man attempting to kill a woman as Batman swooped down and threw the thug aside, putting himself between the man and woman. As Batman approached the thug until he saw his face, Arnold Hutchinson, the man who killed his father. Suddenly Jean Paul's vision turned red as blood. Az Batman, Arnold Hutchinson, you have been found guilty. Murder and monster, you shall be slain by the fires of Saint Dumas. The thug paled and ran for his life as Batman chased after him. He lifted his arm and fired bat shurikens at his enemy, and a few buried themselves in his back, but he kept running as Batman happened to catch the bat signal at the corner of his eye, and suddenly his vision cleared. He tried to process what just happened. By the time he remembered Arnold Etchinson, the man was gone. He also realized something else: the system has been activated, which means his Azrael training would start to take control. He had to tell the others, but no, he couldn't. Bruce was in no shape to return, yet they depended on him to be Batman. He couldn't let them down, so he would just have to fight it later in the Batcave. Jean-Paul made some minor repairs to his armor. Suddenly a voice called to him. He looked around and saw no one, so he got back to work, but he heard it again. He followed the voice until he found himself looking into a bright light. From the light he saw a figure of Saint Dumas. Jean-Paul Valley, you have forgotten your place. You who had been chosen by the Order to be Azrael, the Angel of Vengeance. Jean-Paul backed away, wanting to ignore this vision. He kept telling himself it wasn't real. Saint Dumas, don't you doubt me, I'm Saint Dumas and you are Azrael, Angel of Vengeance. Jean-Paul, no, I'm not. I refuse to be Azrael, I'm Batman. Silence. The vision was gone. He decided that was the key. He just needed to say those words to push the visions away. Everyone was counting on him. It just had to work, it had to. As the week progressed, it seemed to suppress the programming that the Order had done to him. This program was called the System. It was supposed to take over when a new Azrael was ready to perform the duties of the Order. It was mainly for assassinations. The Order couldn't have their champions be squeamish. He didn't understand why it was coming out now and not back when he became Azrael, but he knew it was somehow triggered when he saw Arnold Etchinson. It didn't really matter at this point, but what did matter is that he controlled it. The following week he was on patrol with Robin. They discovered that Arnold Etchinson was carrying out his typical string of murders. Oracle had finally figured out his pattern, so now, as Batman and Robin waited, hoping to stop the lunatic from killing again. Robin was the one to spot him. He was skulking down an alley, looking for his next prey to walk by. As Batman automatically leaped downward from his perch and came crashing down on Arnold. Arnold, not you again. As Batman, Arnold Etchinson, you have been found guilty. Robin, great work, you got him. Batman. Arnold tried to pull a knife, but as Batman grabbed his hand and crushed it, his claws digging into Arnold's flesh. The lunatic howled in pain and cradled his hand. When as Batman let go Robin, whoa, ease up, he's done. The killer proved them wrong by running and throwing a flash grenade at them. Arnold ran into the Smith warehouse. In Jean-Paul's head he heard the voice of Saint Dumas, but this time his message was different. Saint Dumas, Jean-Paul, Arnold Etchinson must be punished for killing your father. You have not betrayed me, but merely taken on a new mantle. You are Batman, the champion of Saint Dumas. As Batman shook his head and chased after Arnold. Inside, steel was molded down and forged into tools. Huge vats of molten metal disrupted his infrared. He searched for him, calling out his name. Arnold was scared out of his mind and refused to speak. He was on a catwalk above this metal Batman, trying to control his breathing. It was so hot from the vats and the forges, it caused him to sweat. As Batman happened to look up and spotted him, Arnold panicked and ran, but tripped over his own feet and fell down. As Batman was quickly upon him, he grabbed Arnold by the leg and held him over the side as Batman, "For the murders you have committed you shall feel the burn of holy fire." Robin recovered and entered the building just in time to watch as Batman release his prisoner and have him drop headfirst into a vat of molten steel. His death was instant and there was nothing Robin could do to save him. Robin hid, horrified by what Jean Paul had just done. He had to tell Bruce and the others, but not here. Not yet, too dangerous. Using his head he called out, pretending to be looking for Jean Paul, like he hadn't seen what happened. "Robin, Batman? Where are you?" As Batman, "I'm up here, Robin." "Robin, did you find Arnold yet?" As Batman nodded, "Yes, I chased after him but he tripped over himself then fell and there he pointed at the vat." Robin was horrified but not for the reason Jean Paul thought. "Robin, are you all right?" As Batman nodded, "I did what I could but I wasn't fast enough to catch him. Either way, he won't take another life again. There is comfort in that." Robin pretended to agree. "It's getting late. I have a test tomorrow at school so I'm gonna need to sleep." As Batman, "That's alright, I'll inform Gordon of the accident." As Robin drove his Robin cycle, the image of Arnold's death played over and over in his mind. What was wrong with Jean Paul? Why would he do this? Bruce and Selena would know what to do. He called Oracle and asked her to have Bruce and the others waiting for him when he returned and to not tell Jean Paul. Oracle did, as he asked, and once he returned to the cave everyone was there except for Oracle, who was monitoring the situation from her lab in the clock tower. Robin told them everything that happened. Bruce at first tried to believe it was a misunderstanding, but Oracle managed to pull up a security video. It clearly shows Jean Paul dropping Arnold to his death in the molten steel. Everyone was horrified. Bruce buried his face in his hands.